I think I could talk to you for about an hour about Omai, but we got 10 minutes, so it's going to be the real quick one. I would encourage you to come to our booth if you want some more information. So Omai Gold Mines, I'm Elaine Ellingham, the CEO. I'm an exploration geologist originally. So we are on the past producing Omai Gold Mine project in Guyana. And when Omai was in production, it was the largest primary gold producer in South America. It produced 3.8 million ounces of gold, and that's over 300,000 ounces a year. So a very large producer. So we've been drilling on the property for about less than 2 years, and we actually published two 43-101 reports last year, which has taken us to 1.9 million ounces in the indicated and 1.8 million ounces in the inferred. Given that we started 2 years ago with no resources, I think we might have broken a record. So obviously working on a brownfields project has advantages. We've got good road access. We were able to accelerate exploration because we have a database that includes all work that's been done to the property back to the 1950s. We've got drill hole data, blast hole data. So our geologists have been able to take that data and work with it very quickly to build those resources, and also some really excellent exploration targets. So basically, working in Guyana, I hadn't worked there before. I find it very easy to work. It's on the north side of South America, so it's actually the former British Guyana, English-speaking, British rule of law, so it's actually quite a very mining-friendly jurisdiction. So for us, the Guyana Shield, it is becoming a hotspot for mining. And a number of reasons. It is orogenic gold, like we see in the West African area and in Ontario, Quebec. So for us Canadian geologists, it looks a little bit different, but it's still orogenic gold, and we're very comfortable in that environment. They tend to be large, deep deposits. And the only reason there hasn't been more exploration is because basically in Guyana, you've got the rainforest, the interior is access challenged, and with the rainfall, you have a thick layer of saprolite. So the Omai mine, this is just shows you the general geology of the property. You see the red line, that is a very prominent regional shear structure. We call it the Wenot Shear Corridor, and it hosts the long, skinny one is the former Wenot producing pit, and it produced 1.4 million ounces. And the round one above that, only 400 meters away, was the Gilt Creek Deposit. The Gilt Creek Deposit produced 2.4 million ounces. So in the last less than 2 years, we've identified the resources associated with below, along strike, and beneath those deposits, and that's where we've been able to get those resources. That's come together very quickly, but also elsewhere on the project, there's a lot of very interesting exploration targets. For example, that Wenot Shear, the red line, you can see that extends 7 kilometers along the property. And as you can imagine, we basically are looking at what could be a very major gold mining camp with multiple deposits. So just showing you the configuration of these deposits, you can see the Wenot there. We've drilled down to 425 meters depth. We know that it's opened at depth further and along strike. So we have a lot more work to do that we believe we can expand that 1.8 million ounce resource. And then the other deposit was drilled by IAMGOLD just at the end of the mine life in 2005. And they put 46 holes, 27,000 meters of drilling. But we remodeled that, and obviously that was at a time when the gold price was $400 an ounce. So that also is something that has turned into a fairly robust deposit that we also know is open along down dip at depth, but also a lot of lateral potential. So this is just the block model for the Wenot deposit. You're looking at the cross-section at the top there. And for those of you who know open pit mining, the fuchsia is actually greater than 2 grams per ton. And you can see that the grades in that are quite robust. So you can see the exploration potential. We have started to step out along strike, but in a very limited way, and we can still see the zones, and so we have a lot more expansion work to do there. In the plan map, I think the one thing to note is to the far west end on the left, where the circle is, that's where we could see a potential starter pit. There's almost 450,000 ounces there alone. This is the other deposit, 400 meters to the north, and basically you're looking there at the wire frame that formed the block model. Again, some very impressive grades there. You know, you got 5.5 grams per ton over 23 meters, 3 grams over 63 meters. This is something that could be either a large stope or even possibly a bulk mineable scenario. It would be underground, of course. So for us, we have spent the last 2 years just basically building a big base of resources, but now it's time to step out on some of the exploration targets. And so you can see from that picture that there's a lot of potential zones. Some of them were drilled by Placer Dome a few holes back in the mid-1990s before it was mining. Cambior mined this property. They focused very much on mining it and very little on the exploration, which really leaves a lot of opportunities for us, especially in a very different gold price environment. So some of our targets, they're generated by geophysics targets and also where there's been previous artisanal miners. Because of course, if the artisanal miners were there in the Guyana Shield, that's a great way to vector you towards deposits. So this is sort of some work we've done more recently, and this is basically taking your airborne magnetic data and doing what's called magnetic vector inversion applications on top of that. And what it does is it takes your magnetic data and it really refines it down into more defined targets. So we're kind of unique at Omai because our gold deposits do in fact have a very distinctive geophysics signature. You can see in the round Gilt Creek Deposit, that's a magnetic low. The blues are magnetic lows, and that's because it's an altered quartz diorite intrusion with a lot of quartz in it. It's a magnetic low. The Wenot Deposit has a magnetite alteration associated with it, and you can see it's a very prominent, well-defined magnetic high. So a lot of gold projects don't have that type of thing, and so you can see Broccoli Hill lies immediately east. It's like only 200, 300 meters east of the Gilt Creek Deposit. And in fact, that has a lot of, it's a hill, and all the artisanal miners for 100 years have been working around the bases of that hill. We know from auger samples, some are as high as 12.4 grams per ton, several that are 1 to 2 grams per ton. This is a great target, and so we've just started drilling in the last week, stepping out on some of these key targets. The Boneyard, about 1 kilometer east of the Wenot Deposit, again, it's a mag low. Looks more like an intrusion. It's only a couple hundred meters from that big structural Wenot shear. So if there's an intrusion there, there's a good chance it was subjected to the same deformation as that Wenot shear. And that would be structurally prepared ground, and those are great routes for where you get your gold mineralizing fluids coming through. The pyramid further east, it's a mag high sitting right on top of what we know is the extension of the Wenot shear. And again, little to no exploration done out there. So those are our targets. Yeah, so this is again looking at that anomaly that's right to the east of the Gilt Creek Deposit. You can see the mag low on the top left. I call that the Klingon warship, the Klingon bird of prey. But as you can see in the cross section, that looks like a pair of glasses. It looks like we're looking at potentially like a sister intrusion or part of the same intrusion that was divided by a structure. It's great hunting turf. We do know that the one was really hosts almost 4 million ounces of gold between what was mined and our resources. So it's a fantastic target. So our directors, we have a great board. Renaud Adams, he and I worked together at IM Gold. He was the general manager of the Rosabelle mine, which is 200 miles east of Omai. And then we also were on Richmont together. I was on the board of Richmont for 7 years, stepped in as interim CEO, and then we brought Renaud in to accelerate the development of the Island Gold Mine before we were acquired by Alamos. And Don Dudak, he is a very experienced geologist in West Africa, which of course similar geology, so we're pleased to have him. I guess the bottom line is we have a very low 30 million market cap, which is I think about $6 per ounce at a past producing brownfields mine where, you know, we know a lot about the property. So we see a lot of potential here and hope you can drop by our booth and have a further discussion. Thank you.